Hi, good morning everyone. Let's get started with our next topic, which is sizing for SAP HANA. In this topic, we will see how to size the HANA database, which is extremely important, especially when you are looking at migrating your existing application. Say, for example, you have, say, BW on HANA. If you migrate to HANA database, what is going to be the size that you may be looking at? Okay, so we will be seeing all that in this particular topic. Okay, so let's go to the next slide here. As you can see here is that these are the three main components of sizing for SAP HANA. So first and foremost is the RAM, that is the memory. Okay, so this depends on the source data footprint. Okay, so basically what is the size of your existing database, and if you divide that size by 5 and this total you multiply by 2, so that is the memory that we are going to require. So why do we multiply by 2 is because the data in the so if you look at this equation, RAM equal to source data footprint divided by 5, that means that we are expecting an compression ratio of 5. Okay, so that is the size of memory, but for execution we need to make sure that the same amount of memory is factored in, so that whatever data is there, it can remain in the execution phase as well. So that is about the memory. Now let's look at the disk. Okay, so disk is one factor which is extremely important here. The reason is, even though it is an in-memory database, but to ensure that the persistence remains, that is, even if the database is shut down, even if the system is powered off, even if there is a power failure, the data remains in the disk like any other database. So whenever the system boots up, whenever the database starts, all that data from the disk gets loaded into memory. So that is, the data in the disk is called persistent data, because that data remains persistent even after any power failure, any failure. Okay, so that is why even though it is a volatile data, the data is there in the memory only, and after the failure of the system, after the failure of memory or after the failure of power, we are able to get the data back, because the data remains in the hard disk. So whenever any read happens, that read happens from the memory, so it is extremely fast. But whenever any write happens, that write, even though it happens in the memory first, but till the time the commit happens at the disk level, so once the data is written to the disk level, then only the commit is done. So as you are familiar with database, the commit is very important. So that is the point that is called as a save point. So that point is very important because at that time the data is committed. So when it is committed only when the data is written to the database, to the hard disk. Okay, so that is the data volume. So data volume means the size of your database, but there is a log volume also. Log volumes, like if you have worked on databases like Oracle or any other database, you may be knowing the redo logs and the undo logs. So redo log is like, and undo logs is like, say for example, if you are writing to some in a if you are writing and some changes are taking place in the database and they are not committed and there is a power failure, So the data is restored back to its normal state in the consistent state, and whatever changes is done, they are recorded in the redo log or undo log, and those changes are undone or redone based on the situation. Okay, so that's why the redo log and the undo log. So for that, we have to cater for at least the size of log volume to be the same as the RAM, the memory that we have in the system. Okay, now the next thing is CPU. So we need to make sure that we factor in at least 0.2 CPU core per active user. Okay, so CPU on the appliance currently is about one core is 16 gig of RAM. Okay, so these are the different factors we need to plan for when we are moving into HANA database, because the sizing is extremely important, and we need to make sure that we design our database properly. Okay, otherwise what will happen is that when we are migrating, our data may not be fitted into memory fully. Okay, so that's why the sizing is extremely important, and SAP has come up with the transports, the programs using which what you can do is you can achieve very good estimation. So they are the transports, they are the programs, they are the SAP notes what SAP has come up with, and those programs, those notes help to get you a very good estimation, because the way that works is that it takes a sample of the existing tables, existing major tables, and it tries to compress them in a sample space and a sample table space, and it will find out, okay, what is the compression can be achieved for the data that you have in your tables. So, and it does the aggregation of them to find out eventually what type of compression you are looking at, and it just extrapolate from there. Okay, so that's how the sizing works for SAP HANA. That is pretty much I wanted to cover. Thank you for joining and have a nice day. Bye bye.